Hey everybody, it's Ziz here. Welcome to Crowfall Insider, your weekly news source for all things Crowfall. And this week we got our first look at the night ability powers and UI, and this is causing a whole bunch of drama over on the official forums. People are freaking out. We're going to take a look at the screenshot and see what all the hubbub is about. Also, we got a founders update when they hired a new developer. This is the person who's going to take care of all the particle effects and spell effects and fire and smoke and all the pretty little flashy stuff we see on screen. And we also got a look at the large fort model that we're going to be able to play in game. It looks really good. And last but not least, we got the road to combat testing part 1. This is an update where they talk about how testing is going to work at the end of summer, who's going to get to play, what it's going to look like, what they get to do, all that and a whole bunch more. Let's jump right in. First up are the night abilities and UI. You can see the screenshot here, kind of what it looks like so far in game, and this is what's causing all the drama and all the ruckus because people are saying there's not enough abilities. If you look on here on the left hand side, there's only 6, 1 through 6. That's not enough. In World of Warcraft you have 20 or 30 and people want more stuff to do, more buttons to press. But real quick, I just want to let you know this is, remember, an early iteration, and not only that, you see here these 4 empty slots. I'm not sure it's limited to only 4, and the reason why is in the update they talk about how these extra slots can be filled with your disciplines, right? So remember, you get up to 3 disciplines, and those disciplines can have active abilities. But what if a discipline has more than one active ability, like the werewolf? I can imagine that having more than one option there. Also, they talked about how advantages can give you an ability. Remember, when you make a character, you get advantages and disadvantages, and I thought it was just like a stat bonus, like increased strength or intelligence, but it sounds like you could actually get an ability with that advantage, which is really cool. And also, your promotion class can give you additional abilities, not just changing these 6 abilities to be specialized to your promotion, but they can give you a whole new ability. So if you think about that, you could possibly have 3 or 4 or 5 just from your disciplines, maybe 1 or 2 from advantages, and then maybe 2 or 3 from promotions. That could easily double the size of your ability bar that you can use. So remember, this is an early iteration. We all want the combat to be fun. Let's not freak out. Now, real quick, let's take a look at all the abilities. First is your left attack. It's a combo chain, has a snare at the end, restores mana. Your block does a ton of stuff like reducing damage for you and all the people behind you. Lots of cool strategy stuff there. You also take less damage, you can't be CC'd, like you can't get knocked around as much, you reflect spells and you can knock people down who attack you. They also have an option they hinted at, shield, like a shield wall, a locking mechanic, where if a bunch of people standing together, they all block and it makes this like impenetrable wall, which sounds really cool. Looking at the abilities over here left to right, first is a shield lunge. That's your standard sort of charge, go over a long distance. Number 2 is a shield slam. You hold up, like you hold the ability down, the button, and then you charge it up, and then you let go and you bash them for a bunch of damage. If you hold it for a long time, you charge it up a lot, then you can automatically crit. So that's really cool. Next is shield spin. This is, you know, your first combo chain where you spin around, you hit people with your shield, and then a second part of that is a stun. And then you come to onslaught. Now you see this is the huge branching tree here. And the way it works is you press 4 you go up this first chain. They call that like the A chain, and just this damage and then stun. But let's say you press 4 and then you switch over here. This is called like the B track, the B chain, and it does a bleed and an AoE bleed, and you can switch back and forth between those. So you can go 4 and then the B train uses the E key, so you can go 4 E and then 4. So it would do damage and then the bleed and then the stun, or you can go 4 and then E, which is the AoE bleed. So lots of ways to kind of mix and match and go back and forth there. Adds a lot of strategies. So do you go all the way up your chain and get the stun at the end of this chain, or do you use a shield slam, or do you use shield lunge? Do you interrupt the other person's shield, their combo chain? Lots of cool things there that I can't wait to see how it works in game. Next is Of Noble Blood. They talk about in the update how they don't know what they want that to be. They like the name of the ability, but they don't know if they want it to be a buff or a debuff or self-target. They just can't decide what they want it to be, but they like the name so much they're gonna make it something. And then last but not least is the chain attack. This is pretty standard. A pull, you use it on someone, it pulls them to you. But remember, with physics, if you're trying to pull something that is bigger than you, it might pull you to them, or you might be able to pull a boulder to yourself. Lots of crazy stuff that could happen there. And the last but not least, on the right hand side here is Constitution, this is like a passive AoE hit point buff, and it sounds like every archetype is going to have a different type of AoE kind of passive buff they could bring. So if you stack a bunch of the same archetype, maybe you get a ton of this buff, or maybe it doesn't stack. Maybe it's better to diversify and have a lot of different archetypes. We'll have to wait and see. Next is this retaliate option. What that is it's kind of a built-in ability where you don't see the button on your bar, but if you get knocked down, you'll have an option of pressing a key, and then your character like breaks out of that knockdown. So it's like a built-in CC break that it sounds like every archetype is going to have. And last but not least is this ability here called Leap Slam, which they are thinking key binding to the C key, and what that does is what's called iframes, immunity frames. While you're using this ability, you are immune to being hit by any attacks or any sort of knockdowns or knockbacks and things like that. And this ability for the knight, what you do is you jump straight up in the air, all the enemies that were around you are sucked in underneath you, and then you come crashing back down on top of their head, and while you're doing that leap, you can't be knocked around. So sounds like a really cool sort of AoE ability. Lots of awesome stuff, lots of cool things. I can't wait to see. This is going to be available, all these abilities playable in-game in just a month or two at the end of summer. Next up is the Founders update. Just a couple little things here. One is that they hired their developer. Remember back in Kickstarter, they said they wanted to hire another Eric, and what they meant was Eric, which is one of their developers, he was working on like particle effects and spells and stuff, but he's better doing other stuff. So they need to hire new developers specializing in all the fancy, flashy spells and fireballs and smoke and fire and all that sort of stuff. Well, they did that, which is really cool. It only took them a couple of months, which is really, really nice. I know other games, other Kickstarters, it's taken them like years to get the developers that they wanted. So the fact they were able to get someone this quick is really, really great. We're going to start to see this super cool, flashy stuff really quickly. Also, we got to look here at the model for the large fort. Now there's a couple of different stages. This one here, this is stage 3, and this is what, remember, you can build in your Eternal Kingdom, and then also you can build in the campaign worlds. It takes resources, and then when you build this, you can put other buildings inside of it, which is great because you can put thralls in there, you can put NPCs that help defend the keep, you can put merchants that sell stuff. So we got an ID here, a look, and we just got one of these not too long ago for one of the castles, I think. So this, I mean, they're going really, really quick, and I can't wait to see this in testing. We get to play and fight over this, and there's a moat. Did you see that? Look right there. There's a moat. Moats are awesome. And last but not least is the Road to Combat Testing Part 1. This is where they talk a little bit about how the alpha test, which is starting this summer, how it's going to work. They talk about how there's some of the testing that's really boring and terrible, and they don't want people to do that part. That's where you just log in, you go down a checklist of things, and it's really boring, and then they make a new build and do it over and over and over and over again. That's the boring stuff they don't want us to do. What they want us to do is get in the game and play and have fun. You can see this screenshot here. I think it looks amazing. I think the knight looks really cool. You can see, remember, this is a gray box world. They haven't put the textures on because this might change. They might change the size and the shape of stuff, so they don't want to waste time making it look pretty if it's going to change. But remember that large fort we were just talking about? Here it is in game with a knight. This is what you're going to get to play on if you're in the tests, especially if you're in the alpha test. I mean, this is what it looks like, and you're going to get a fight over this. Now, I doubt that there's destruction, right? But they'll probably drop a bunch of people in here, and you'll just get to fight over it. Just go crazy. You can see inside the building to the right there. You can see some glowing. There's like some torches or some fire in there already. I think it looks awesome. I think it looks really, really great. I can't wait to see it. And they talk about how this is sort of like a city siege. Like this is setting up the foundation for sieging. So we're going to start to see eventually this same sort of thing with siege items and siege mechanics, and they're going to continue to build on this. Now, what it's going to look like for the testers who get to play, they're going to get a login here. They can use the same username and password they use for the website. They get to log in, and then they're going to make a character. Now, remember, we only have 3 characters to choose from right at the beginning. We have the knight that we talked about already. There's also the legionnaire and the confessor. So you have your like tanky person, you have your legionnaire, which is kind of like a supporty person, and then you have the confessor, which is DPS. And this is very early very rudimentary. Like some of the stuff won't work, like the skin tone changer may work, the gender option may not work, selecting your god with the banners over there, that may not work. But when you log in, you'll be able to take a look at each archetype, and then it shows you a list of the abilities so you can get a kind of rough idea of what you want to do. And then you click confirm and it says you go to the next part. Now they talk a little bit more here about how they're not ready to release information quite yet what it's going to look like when you get in game. There's going to be a join match screen, but what that looks like, how it's going to work, what the rules are, we haven't got that yet. Again, my guess is it's going to be sort of like a small map with that fort we saw. It's going to split you up into teams, and then you're just going to go fight, just kill each other, run around. And of course, if you break anything, you know, let them know. Be good testers so the rest of us have a good game. We don't want bugs. But I think it looks pretty awesome. I think the knight looks really sweet, and I want to get in there and I want to start playing. That's it this week for Crowfall Insider. We took a look at the knight UI and ability powers, and what do you think? Are there enough options? Is it going to be stale and boring because you don't have enough buttons to press, or do you think it's going to work out? Let me know down in the comments below. Also, we found out that they hired a new developer, which is great, and we got to look at the new fort model. And last but not least, they talked about how the testing is going to work starting at the end of summer. Lots of awesome stuff. I can't wait to see it all. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.